Hey everybody, this is Pastor Megan at this old church, Grace Lutheran in San Francisco, and today I'm going to show you how to refinish old pews. We're going to use chalk paint today. You can pick the kind of chalk paint that is your favorite color, and we use 2 pints on 3 giant pews, so you probably don't need a full gallon unless you're going to do a whole bunch. And here's how we did it. Step 1 is to sand the pews. It helps if you have a power sander. If you don't, you can just take a lot longer to do it. The idea is to make an abrasive surface so that the paint has something to stick to. Then step 2 is to paint the pews. We did 1 coat all the way around and then 2 coats on the part where people are going to sit. You can paint it to your likeness. Some people like to do 2 or 3 coats, but because the next step is to sand the paint, getting it perfectly painted doesn't really make a super lot of sense if you're just going to take some of the paint off. After you have painted the pews to your likeness, then you're going to sand them a little bit. We use 90 grit. You can use 120 grit. Again, it's really up to you, and it depends on how many coats of paint you did. Some people like to put chalk paint wax on first and then sand it and then put chalk paint wax on again. We did not do it in that order because if you look at how-to videos long enough, you can find one that supports the way you want to do something. But also because we don't want to have to do the upkeep that typical chalk paint antiquing requires. So normally what you would do is you would apply like a coat of wax, furniture wax, on top of the chalk paint every year in order to like keep it protected. We're trying to fix up this church so that it can be used into the future. We're not trying to create an obligation of something someone has to do every year into the future. So we have opted to finish our pews a different way. There is a Rust-Oleum product that's for chalk paint. It's a matte finish instead of a glossy. You could choose a glossy, but it'd be weird because the beauty of chalk paint is that it's a matte. So you could paint on a matte finish instead of a wax. You want to know which you're going to do kind of before you do the sanding phase, because you might want to add a layer of furniture wax before you sand. When you are sanding, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're sanding, you want to just get the kind of ridges. See how cool that kind of looks? So you're getting the places that would normally get worn first if this was like an old antique pew that had always been this color. So the idea is you're putting a new finish on the pew, but it doesn't look like a new pew. It's got kind of a cool kind of shabby chic, antique-y look. So it looks like these pews have been here forever, but they like match the surroundings now. And they, we had blonde wood that was from the 70s. And so it doesn't look like we're in the 70s anymore, but we are not running away from a traditional look. So that's why we chose this particular type of paint and this kind of sanding. And here's what the sanding looks like. All right, so we sanded the tops. We've got it ready to go. We're gonna throw some tarps under here, and then we're gonna do our chalked protective top coat matte clear covering, and just paint it on just like we painted on the paint. And I'll show you what it looks like next. So we did it. We have now put all of the sealant on the pews. We started at the top and we worked our way down, because otherwise if you start on the bench and then you do the top and it drips, that's not fun to have to clean the drips. The other thing we noticed is that if it drips like this, it's fine, it will dry clear. But drips like that, if you try to wipe them off with the brush, it takes the chalk paint from underneath off. So once it gets a little bit tacky, just leave it if you get too much in a spot, because it will dry nicely. And it turns a little bit darker than the color you started with, so just know that. And because there's no buffing phase like there would be if we picked wax, we're done with these puppies, and as soon as they're dry, we can put them back into place. Looks great, right? Well, we're a couple steps into wall painting behind me. If you want to watch the video on that, it'll be coming out next. You can learn how to make a Rothko-inspired meditation wall. But thanks for joining us. These pews, like everything else around here, is good enough for a church this size. And I also want to do a shout out to ThriVent Financial for Lutherans. Thanks for helping us with gift cards to help do this project behind us, including the whole wall.